Tonight, new law, same old story.
Stay on the footpath. You were warned. Get off his land.
Whatever I like, while I'm private property, and it's got nothing to do with you.
Continuing the chase despite the ban.
If I need to go to jail, I'll go. I obviously don't want to. I am definitely not paying a fine for carrying on my way of life.
A weekend of revolt, and the conflict continues.
I need them to know, those hunting people out there, we're going to be over their shoulder and we are going to be watching them all the time, and they will not get away with it.
Good evening. 270 hunts, 91 dead foxes, and not a single prosecution. If anyone thought the hunting ban would have an immediate effect, this weekend's statistics show how wrong they were. The government brought in the new law to finally draw a line under a debate that's dragged on since it came to power 8 years ago. But, as many critics claimed, it seems that law is hard to understand and even more difficult to police. So is hunting now dead, as we were promised, or is it still very much alive? Fiona Foster reports.
Thursday, February the 17th, and a centuries-old tradition is coming to a close. At midnight, the hunting bill will become law. And while gatherings like this won't be illegal, what they're about to do will, for the first time, become a criminal offence.
It's been a day that people have been dreading, really, because they can't believe it can come to this. But we have to face facts. It's a democracy. If that's what the government's brought in, all we can do is fight to overturn it and show in the years to come how ridiculous this law is, how unenforceable it is, and how bad it is for animal welfare. I just think it's a sad day for this country, and I'm not going to give up. And the thousands of other people around the country it meets, they're not going to give up.
For now, at least, it seems the pro-hunt lobby have to accept defeat. But here in the Cotswolds, they remain defiant, determined as ever that the ban will be overturned, and certain that hunting will survive.
I think people don't quite realise the resolve that we have got within the countryside to fight this. Whichever way you look at it, it's history being made. History will judge whether it's right or wrong. But yeah, a lot of people, I mean, me personally, the last time I can take my hands out legally into the countryside and do what they and I have been trained to do. I think it's a very sad day, and there will be a lot of private emotion, public emotion.
100 miles south, emotions are already high. It may be the last day of legal hunting with dogs, but here in Sussex, the confrontations with saboteurs are continuing to the bitter end.
Get out of here! I've had to sick you lot for years.
Simon and Jane Wilde have spent the last 20 years trying to break up hunts like this. It now seems that victory is finally within their sights, but they're not yet prepared to stop their fight.
I don't even know whether I should celebrate, you know, on Thursday night at midnight. You know, we're even unsure about that, you know. I'm still hesitant because I know that there's going to be lots of hunts that are going to try and do it illegally. But to my mind, whatever happens is there's going to be less suffering than there has been with the normal hunting that's been going on. And I'm happy. I'm happy in my heart, but I'm just so sad for all those animals that have died in the past, you know, that should never ever have been killed in that manner.
Midnight and the new law approach. Back in the Cotswolds, the Bicester and Whaddon Chase hunt hold their last supper, and they've a message of defiance for saboteurs like the Wilds.
The people who tonight were popping champagne corks, it's a very hollow victory for them, and I think on Saturday morning they will see how hollow it is.
Stay on the footpath. You were warned. Get off his land.
Whatever I like, while I'm private property, and it's got nothing to do with you.
The battle between the pro and anti-hunt lobbies has been raging for decades, with the confrontations becoming more bitter and bloody. It's a debate in which both sides have refused to give ground, and all too often the police have been caught in the middle. Last September, the political debate came to a head when MPs voted in favour of banning hunting with dogs.
Sitting suspended.
Despite the protests in the Commons, despite the mass demonstrations outside the chamber, and despite opposition in the Lords, the government decided to push through its hunting bill. Almost immediately, more than 50,000 people signed a declaration saying they would carry on hunting, ban or no ban.
I'm adamant it's not about foxes. Foxes are the last thing it's about. It's a political gesture, and it's about that sort of anachronistic feeling of having a go at the upper classes and the rich, which is completely, it doesn't exist now. It's nothing whatsoever to do with class anymore, but for some reason there is a part of the Labour Party and a part of the government that believes that they're finally getting their own back, and it's a nonsense.
Do you think Tony Blair's underestimated the strength of feeling?
Most definitely. I don't think he has any idea the size of the hornet's nest he's stirred up, and I think he very soon will wish to God he'd left it well alone.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
This weekend, that defiance is being put to the test for the first time. Saturday morning, and the ban's now been in place for a little over 24 hours. But here at the Middleton Hunt in North Yorkshire, nothing seems to have changed. They're meeting, much as they have been, since 1764. And while most insist they'll stay within the law, some are prepared to break it.
We are law-abiding, but if a fox gets away, we'll get up and chase after it. From a personal point of view, I'd hunt illegally every day, because I think it is an unjust law, and I would be prepared to take the full brunt of the law that they want to put on me. I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I think it's unjust, and it has no substance to it to justify it being illegal or to try and make me a criminal.
Across the country, 270 other hunts are also gathering, many coming up with their own tactics to defy the ban. This is the Llangina hunt in South Wales. On the face of it, just another hunt on just another Saturday. But today, and for the foreseeable future, if they're to stay within the law, then things will have to change. Instead of hunting foxes, the hounds will be following an artificial trail, a fox scent rather than an actual fox. At least that's the theory. The practice, though, isn't quite as simple. Because while they're following the artificial scent, the hounds may pick up a real one. And in that case, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to stop them going after an actual fox.
It's such a ridiculous law. I virtually think we will more or less be doing what we've always done anyway. Because the minute the foxes are up on their feet, they are not like sheepdogs where you just whistle and they come back. Even though they're under control, they're not under as stricter control as being in a pack as one single dog. As most of the hounds in Britain have been trained to hunt fox, even though we are trying to retrain them to hunt simulated fox scent, it's inevitable that, the odd accident will happen.
It's precisely those so-called accidents that the saboteurs want to prevent. On a day when they should be at home celebrating, they're again out in force, determined to stop foxes being killed illegally. In Sussex, they're on the trail of the Crawley and Horsham hunt, but they're having difficulty getting anywhere near it.
Private hunt security that they've got for today, and I imagine they've come up here so they're going to try and tag us to prevent us getting too close to what's happening.
Every route the saboteurs try appears to have been blocked. But then they catch a glimpse of the hunt across a field, and as they try to drive off in pursuit, a convoy of hunt supporters prevents them from getting through.
I think they're deliberately.
It's a deliberate obstruction of the public highway.
The saboteurs are in constant contact with others who can see what's happening behind the blockade.
we can do then is document.
They're blocking the road at
This is
Trawler's
what will
Farm and
happen.
hunting. They're hunting at Trawler's Farm. And they're just
So this is what will happen.
blocking the road south of Trawler's Farm, and they're blocking it where we are too,
And
which
they're
is north of
hunting.
Netherwood. They're hunting. Yeah.
Armed with this information, they try to get the police involved.
Excuse me, officer. Officer, excuse me. Officer, excuse me. I want to tell you something. Can I tell you something? They're hunting. Excuse me, can I just speak to you? Please. That's the result we're getting from British police. They're hunting. I've just heard on the phone they're hunting illegally at Trawler's Farm and blocking the roads to prevent us getting there. And I can't even speak to an officer.
You are hunting. You're breaking the law.
You're breaking the law. You don't drag through woodland.
Finally, the saboteurs catch up with the hunt, and it's just like old times. Watching scenes like this, it's hard to believe that hunting is now banned.
Can you remove these people,
These people, you're breaking the law. These are hunting.
It's also easy to understand why the police will have trouble enforcing the new law, and why their resources may become stretched.
We'll be dealing with people who are demonstrating. We'll be dealing with those who want to celebrate the fact that hunting has come to an end. And our job will be not only to detect any offences that might occur against the Hunting Act, but also to keep the peace. I think there are difficulties in enforcing this because we're out in the countryside about getting evidence, but I don't think they're insurmountable difficulties. We deal with difficult legislation all the time. It's a new piece of legislation. It's going to be tested, but we will be enforcing it, I can assure you of that.
But in Sussex, the police are more concerned with keeping the peace than checking on the hunt. When security guards try to move the saboteurs off private land so the hunt can continue, officers move in.
You've seen the hunt's hunting illegally through there?
The saboteurs are convinced that the hunt is deliberately leading hounds into an area that may well be populated by foxes.
Basically, I heard the hunting horn. He's going around with the hounds completely around him. There was no control of the hounds at the time that I saw, and he was actually encouraging them to move around in that area. He didn't know we were going to come in there at that point and film. So I've actually asked the police if they would go down there and start following the hunt, and they're obviously too involved in what's happening here that they can't get down there.
The presence of the security guards meant we were unable to confirm whether the hunt was operating outside the new law. But the Crawley and Horsham hunt later told us they'd done nothing illegal, and that they were simply exercising their hounds and trail hunting following an artificial scent. The new law may have been seen as a victory for the anti-hunt movement. But as long as the pro-hunt lobby continues to talk and act defiantly, they promise to carry on with their own campaign. They may even intensify it. This weekend it emerged that they were recruiting an army of so-called hunt monitors to help enforce the ban.
They're training monitors so they can go and follow hunts and then start prosecutions. Well, I think that is the road to anarchy. They're becoming vigilante policemen, and I think it's totally unacceptable. And this is one of the negative sides of this silly, unworkable bill.
Most of the Hunt Saboteurs Association is already training up people now so that they will be out there watching the hunts. You know, we haven't waited years and years and years for this bill to come in, to be made a mockery of. And the hunts might think that they're going to do that, but they won't.
But informing the police is one thing, getting them to bring prosecutions is another. In a weekend when 91 foxes were killed, no one faced criminal charges. No wonder that many in the pro-hunt lobby believe the new law is doomed to fail.
How easy is it going to be for people to be able to tell what's a legal hunt and what's an illegal hunt?
Impossible. Impossible.
Why?
Because we are hunting a fox-based scent. And during that hunt, if you're hunting a fox-based scent, a fox jumps up, we will stop hounds. That is our legal, what we have to do. But the actual, for somebody or a police officer having to try and tell what's going on, it's going to be impossible.
What if you're out line hunting and your pack of hounds picks up the scent of a real fox and goes after it? Are you breaking the law in that case?
You are technically breaking the law. You stop them, bring them back.
And will you?
Yeah. I said I will work within the law to show how stupid it is. I don't need to be sat in a police station fighting this. We can do that quite easily from outside.
I think it'll be impossible. You know, even experienced huntsmen will tell you that if a pack of hounds are running and hunting in full cry, the reality of it is you are not 100% sure what they hunted. And if people who have hunted all their lives can't tell, I'm damn sure the police won't be able to.
In Sussex, keeping the peace between Hunt supporters and saboteurs is also proving impossible.
When he's under a horse, I am concerned about his safety.
We don't
I will talk about that later.
During this confrontation, Hunt supporters throw a dead fox onto the ground, and it's surrounded by hounds. And though they claim it was shot legally the day before, it raises the temperature even higher.
We will investigate what has happened to the best of our ability. But for the time being, I'm trying to prevent any inflammatory situation between... There is. No. There already is.
This is a public footpath.
As the situation deteriorates further, there's now the potential for serious public disorder. Officers struggle to keep the two sides apart.
The box is 3 more in there.
Get that broke out, right.
Hey! Go up there! Hey! Go up there! Come on, hurry up! Hurry up then, you're not doing it, are you?
I'm trying to break you guys up. Can you just move off the land? You'll be able to see just as much from up there, yeah?
As the police try to restore order here, hunts across the country have found a range of ways to get round the new law. Not too difficult when you see how it's worded.
You can't use a pack of hounds to hunt and kill a fox, but you can use 2 of those hounds from that pack to chase a fox out into the open and then shoot it. You can then drag that dead fox across the countryside with the pack of hounds on its trail. You can also use the traditional methods, other methods of controlling the fox population, like snaring and poisoning. All very confusing if you thought the hunting ban would protect foxes.
This is the 200-year-old Morpeth hunt in Northumberland. Today they have every intention of killing a fox and have just sent 2 hounds into a wooded area to see if they can flush one out into the open. It takes just a few minutes for the animal to appear. The gunman then moves in and takes aim. All perfectly legal under the new law. But for the pro-hunting lobby, more cruel on the fox.
I mean, I like to hunt the fox, that's why I come in. And I do like the hounds to catch a fox. But I like the fox to have a proper sporting chance. Is where he hasn't. He's just been blasted with a shotgun. There's no challenge in that, is there?
The people that have banned this cannot sit there and justify it on the grounds of animal welfare. I'm afraid they're living in cloud cuckoo land, and in future investigations and studies are going to prove them wrong.
Those opposed to hunting would say that the chase is absolutely terrifying for the fox concerned, and that surely shooting them is a kinder way of dispatching them.
I don't believe that shooting anything is a kinder way of doing it. If the potential is it might just get wounded. The idea of this terrifying spectacle. I've been hunting hounds now for 27 years, and I don't ever believe that a fox is terrified until the last seconds, and then it's instantaneously killed.
Carol! I've got the handbrake on!
Carol, go forward, go forward! Stop, stop, stop!
Back in Sussex, the saboteurs are trying to leave when their van is rammed repeatedly and forced off the road by a Land Rover. A Tonight cameraman is inside the vehicle. Outside, a scuffle breaks out between a security guard and a hunt saboteur. It's quickly broken up as police reinforcements arrive. Sussex police say they're investigating this incident, along with reports denied by Hunt members that they taunted saboteurs by feeding a dead fox to the hounds. The new law was expected to bring the hunters into conflict with the authorities. But now there are tensions between the police and the saboteurs, who believe officers should concentrate on enforcing the ban rather than keeping the peace.
There's 24 police officers out there, but we're the only ones actually trying to physically use our cameras to gather the evidence, and the police aren't, I'm afraid. Something's got to change. To some degree, in fairness, they had a potential, well, as it happened, a serious public order situation to deal with, but I would have expected to have at least 2 or 3 just seeing what was going on and trying to keep ahead of things. And they're going to have to do this because it's just a slap in the face for democracy if that doesn't occur.
the level of resources that we'll put into this will be the same as we would for any other wildlife legislation, and indeed on demand as people tell us that hunting is taking place, or we get information or intelligence that hunting is taking place. So the resources that we'll put into it will be proportionate. And by that I mean that we will not be putting a huge amount of resources into it, because there are other things that will be priorities, and we'll have to deal with those as well.
But even if the police do succeed in bringing prosecutions for illegal hunting in the future, some will remain defiant, even though they face fines of up to £5,000.
Well, I won't pay. I don't see why I should be fined for doing something that I've done since I was 8 years of age. If we are unfortunate enough to get caught and prosecuted, I've already taken precautions. I've handed all my savings and, you know, bits of property that we own over to my son, and if I need to go to jail, I'll go. I obviously don't want to, but I am definitely not paying a fine for carrying on my way of life. This is not a justice thing, is it? It's really a class war. They think that all the people that hunt are pompous, upper-class twits. Well, the reality of it is in Wales and the Fells and the majority of England, they're only ordinary working-class people. And I feel as if Tony Blair is doing to me what Maggie Thatcher did to my father in the mines. And at the end of the day, Maggie Thatcher did it for economic reasons. This is just straightforward spite.
And so the first weekend under the new law comes to a close. The debate continues, as does the ancient tradition at its centre. And while more than 90 foxes are dead, hunting itself appears to have survived.
I don't think hunting will ever be wiped out. Hunting's been around in the current form, particularly fox hunting, for 350 years. And it's going to be here for another 350 years. They're ignoring and changing everything that we hold dear. And I think that that's very, very sad, and it's a very dangerous precedent. And I think that this government has to start pulling its claws in sooner or later. Otherwise, we'll help them at the ballot box all we can to remove them.
This is cruel, and the public are behind this act, and we're not going to allow this to happen. So it's a victory for animal rights, definitely. But I need them to know, those hunting people out there, that every time they turn around, we're going to be there. And every time they make a move that they think that they're going to get away with, we're going to be there. So we're going to be over their shoulder, and we are going to be watching them all the time, and they will not get away with it.
Fiona Foster reporting. And that's nearly all we have time for this evening. We're back on Friday investigating the food contamination scandal that's led to hundreds of products being withdrawn from the shelves.